Yo, for real. Flashing lights warning on this one. Like, trust me. So, Alaahs back. The modder who created the excellent Corrupted Edition mod a little while back. And he's created his own version of 5-cell mode, where you can see a few modded enemies. Weapons are more powerful than normal, and oh yes, every enemy past the first area are all now elites. A very fanciful way of imagining what 5-cell difficulty could possibly be like. Don't worry, I pretty quickly turn off flashing lights so you don't get whiteout anytime I walk into a new area. Anyway, straight up, I did not finish this one. This is just a huge supercut of like 5 hours of attempts, and I couldn't even get past the promenade / toxic sewers. If you want to see a full run, Alaahs has one on his Twitch channel, which will be linked in the description. AL, 3 A's, and H if you're looking for it. Go subscribe to him or follow him. I don't know exactly what he's at right now. I mean, why not? I'll pimp him out because I want to see more mods of this game. Because although this is a trash fire, one that I certainly am not able to finish, it's not completely impossible either. There was actual effort. And knockback alone kills me more than anything else. There was actual effort put into this mod to make it completable in some way. Some ways easier than others. I'll get into this a bit later, but yeah, if you just get an amulet, of which it's pretty easy to get a lot of amulets. I don't know if you've noticed, there's a lot of elites in this. But it's pretty easy to do so if you get an invisibility amulet, because then you can just walk by everything. But I tried as hard as I possibly could to not cheat this out, because, well, come on, as a mod, it's not exactly legitimate in the first place, and second off, oh, come on, I don't want this to be easy. I wanna feel the burn here. I wanna see the challenge. That said, couldn't get past the second area. So, I think there's a good indication of kind of how well balanced, you know, at least for me it is. Anyway, all items are minimally level 20. So you're getting some pretty powerful items right off the bat, which makes sense because being on 5-cell mode, enemies are pretty tightly packed in every single corridor here. Just look at the amount of Inquisitors that I'm fighting alone right now. Can't even get past them easily. Additionally, there are heals, a limited amount of heals, more like in the 2-cell, I think 1-cell in this latest update mode. So every couple areas you go through, you will have a health refill on your flask. This is why Frost Archers are not in the normal game. Just saying. Yeah, there's a few of the unused enemies that you might have seen in Corrupted mode. The undead archers with the like beta super alpha, since I guess this is still early access. That skin, they shoot frost arrows at you and from any direction. It's very obnoxious and leads to you being stun locked pretty easily. Obviously, one of the really tough things is, well, not only dealing with the amount of enemies, but every single time any enemy gets hit, and they'll often just get hit by themselves, you go flying. And usually that's not a big deal when it comes to a single elite in the normal game, but when there's 50 of them at once, you'll go so fast the camera can't even keep up with you, like, it's a Sonic hack or something. Good stuff. Yeah, if enemies take fall damage, and they tend to because they sort of have to space themselves out just to fit in areas, they will still be mad at you and then start teleporting towards you. Also, every time an enemy is killed, it slows down. It's all great. It's all just fantastic. Overall, I did have a lot of fun with this, even in, like... I'm turning the sound down on this video a little bit. Every single one of those elites is dropping something. Oh, yes, and also, paramount to actually surviving this, you do really, for real, need to get a necklace as soon as possible, and also have a pretty decent PC to even run this in the first place. Because necklaces have been improved now that right at the start they give you minus 80% damage reduction, which is... yeah, necessary to deal with some of these shenanigans. Alright, so I've said before, if everything's just going to be elite, yeah, I predicted this in some way. Maybe this is not the legitimate version, but it is a playable version. And not anymore with the new patch, which is why I had to kind of call it here, at least for right now. I could easily roll back the save, but not right now. Again, 5 hours. I think that's enough for the moment. But yes, I did call everything being an elite, and this is what it would be like. I would probably say that you wouldn't get the whole pushback and slowdown on every single enemy if this was, you know, the actual developers doing this, but being a mod, at least you get kind of an idea of what the deal is. It's really the pushback. It's really the getting hit around all the time and everything slowing down constantly and getting stun locked. That's the real issue. If the game was just running as it normally did, and there just happened to be a lot of enemies, but you did get powerful weapons along with that, blah, 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 I think that I could actually probably deal with this decently. Also, if this sort of thing didn't happen. But hey, that's the price of having some of those dummied out characters in the game, so I mean, it's nice to see them now that Corrupted Edition is a bit more difficult to get working here. Alright, so what's the actual strategy? Well, invisibility necklace. You can just invisibility necklace and run straight to the end of the game. But that's not fun. That's not the way I want to do it. It's nice seeing all those items doing a little shimmy shake down there. Just goes to show you, things don't like being in the same space in this game, whether they are elites teleporting around or items. Oh boy. Well, anyway, the basic idea that I had at first was go full tactics. If you get as many if you get like a ton of tactics, if you get like some good turrets, that would pretty easily. Well, I mean, obviously the first thing you need to do is get an amulet, so you have enough damage reduction to survive a single hit. But yeah, you get enough turrets and you're able to kill things pretty easily. But the thing is, everything's elite. Even things that aren't actually possible to be elite in the game, like bats or defenders in the promenade, for example, or the kamikaze bats. Yeah, good luck killing those guys before they explode all over you. Also, probably useful to not use up all of my flask charges, because it's not until either the ramparts or the old sewers that I'm going to be getting another one, but desperate times, etc. Gotta get all those, get practice in there as well. I'd really say that you're gonna get stun locked a lot, so having something that does passive damage, there's another death. Yeah, these are all just kind of a grab bag of a bunch of different stuff that I thought was interesting or weird or whatever, I don't know. Passive damage, and I think something especially that doesn't get killed by enemies attacking it. Enemies still get stopped by you picking up scrolls, was the point of that one. So, like, I don't know, a ceiling turret is good, Crusher is good, Death Orb especially is pretty good. Although Death Orb can be kind of weird. Yeah, that Frost Archer just jumped on top of the head of that Vine Grenadier and killed it, which happens a lot. Just look at the amount of Inquisitors in here. Here's where having a Spiteful Sword actually helps out quite a bit. And all the way back up there. But yeah, Death Orb, pretty good, but doesn't work on everything. Honestly, I think that if I was going to be doing this right now, there seem to be two pretty good things that you can pick up, and that is a turret, any sort of turret that gives you damage reduction, the minus 25%, because I think that works doubly as well, even though I have, what, 80% damage reduction right now just wearing any one of the necklaces that I picked up. And specifically getting, I don't know, like let's say an explosive lure. Since I think that it's a bit much to take the invisibility necklace, an explosive lure I think kind of splits the difference on that, as well as one of the biggest problems, getting the, you know, elite kamikaze bats to not keep exploding in your face, because you can't possibly kill them before that. It's good for that. The other thing I guess I would say would be a fast melee weapon works pretty good here. Yeah, the constant snares and the constant icing makes it pretty difficult to do this. Fast melee weapon will allow you to kill enemies pretty quick, something like an impaler. Yeah, there was just stun lock, ahoy. Something like the Spiteful Sword can be used pretty quickly, and you get extra damage, and you're already taking so much less damage that you can get criticals pretty much all the time. Yeah, I just wanted to include that one, because that zombie just came out of nowhere. I didn't even see it. It was just hidden behind all of those Inquisitors. What else? What else? I suppose insofar as necklaces, one of the big problems... Oh yes, this is also the first time that I got the promenade. One of the big problems using necklaces that I figured out is that pretty much every single necklace is going to have the drop a bomb affix, so that if you roll past an elite, they will take damage and then become active. There's how elites will just kind of sardine pack themselves into a single area and then just kill you. Oh, this one is fun. I stood no chance. That's why I wanted to put that in there, because that was before I turned off the flashing lights, so didn't really have too much ability with that. Here's where I figured out, boy, at the very start, you really want to have a ranged weapon, because melee weapons are just a recipe for disaster, especially slow-moving ones. If you don't start out with a decent ranged weapon at the start here, it's almost worth just resetting alone, because it's very difficult to encourage an elite enemy to follow you around if you don't have something to hit them at a distance. Especially because you are dealing with frost archers, which can stun lock you into oblivion pretty easily too. Other things that could be useful, necklace, obviously any sort of necklace, try to get it so you either get maximum amount of damage. Yeah, this one was also included because you can't roll through frost arrows. It will still freeze you. Necklaces can also have like heal with poison so that you can get free healing in the sewers at the cost of having to wait around for a lot. Look forward to that later because it'll be really obnoxious. Here was a decent... aside from that, I guess I don't really know what else you would possibly want. You don't want the Super Mario Mode necklace, which is not called Super Mario Mode, but just jumping on enemies stuns them at this point. Because you will pretty much be bouncing on top of enemies forever and never be able to do anything. And there's already a lot of loss of control problems in this game. Well, in this particular mode. Mod? Not exactly a legitimate mode in any way. But yeah, this was like the first time that I had a pretty good usage of a... what do you call it? Turret, as well as kind of showing off how you can utilize some of the things in the game. I showed before utilizing like stats to kind of get some free movement. Obviously didn't work too well, but also the coffins to be able to, you know, get some brief amount of invincibility so that you're not getting killed immediately after, say, using your flask, as I was there. Here's a good example of how in this particular mod, challenge rifts are pretty trivial because you have a lot of... Oh yeah, also watch out because if there's an item in front of something that you're trying to use, that can easily get yourself killed because you keep trying to pick it up. That comes into play a little bit more later as well. Yeah, challenge rifts are pretty trivial because you don't really need to worry too much about dodging stuff. Because obviously having such a huge amount of damage reduction as it is, you can tank your way through pretty much everything easily. Yeah, I'll look at your stuff when it's in English. Or maybe it is in English and I didn't realize that. Whatever, I don't think this was the appropriate video to be showing that one off anyway. And although this would be nice, not really of any use right now. Thinking about it, I think like other items that could be useful in this mode, maybe the magnetic grenade, because that's one of the few things that can attack through walls, which obviously one of the big issues that you'll fall into is that enemies will, say like Inquisitors or Frost Archers, will be able to attack you through walls, but you won't be able to attack them before they get a lot of pot shots off at you. So what you can do is you can use that to activate them, and then they'll have to teleport to you, because that's just part of the basic Elite AI script. Aside from that, having something like an assault shield could be pretty useful, because it's not too difficult, as you can probably imagine, to parry things when there are so many projectiles and everything flying around on screen already. I shouldn't have taken that crossbow-matic there. That would have been useful down here. But yeah, this is Super Mario mode, by the way. Yeah, something like an assault shield can give you invincibility pretty easily, because you can easily parry a lot of this stuff. And that can be especially useful against, like, a huge horde of Inquisitors. They're all on the same plane, so that you can just keep parrying their shots back at them, or through whatever happens to be attacking you in front of them, even. Or parrying, for example, the Kamikaze Bats, so that their explosions, since obviously being elites, they're all going to kind of group up on you. And they do move faster than normal, being elites. So you can, you know, get a bit of a reprieve from those if you can time a parry correctly. Make sure you time that parry correctly, because otherwise Assault Shield's not going to be doing too much good for you. Additionally, if you happen to get a decent damage reduction shield at the start, you know, as one of your random shields that happens to be chosen out of the random shield upgrade you get the Collector, that can a little bit at least make up for the fact that you don't start with a necklace, so that you can maybe survive a hit or two from an elite. Really, it's mostly in your best interest to try to get a necklace as soon as possible, through hook or crook or whatever. Now, the other thing is that, you know, I said that you really want to have like a ranged weapon, but I think the best ranged weapon that I found for at least dealing with this at the start... Oh, here's where I first get a... I really don't value those. That was a lot of kills at once. I don't value those as much as I do, I would say, right now, having played this mod a bit more. But for real, the Explosive Lure is really good. But yes, best weapon to attack with, or to get like at the start, or to get very early at least, I would say is a Hunter's Longbow. Why? Because the Hunter's Longbow gives you pretty easy... I've called it a boss killer before, and it certainly is a boss killer, because everything is a boss in this. And the huge amount of damage you can do, especially if you get piercing on it, means that if you're in a straight hallway and there aren't shield bearers there, you can tend to destroy just about every single elite trivially by kind of doing a, you know, hit and run, walk back and forth. And it's decent. Throwing knives are not super good, since the damage over time isn't amazing, and Knife Storm could be better, but I don't know. Anyway, the amount of money you get in this mode, especially if you decide to actually recycle anything, makes it so that upgrading everything is extremely trivial. So that's nice, at least. Ah, yes, the first area, which I guess is programmed to never have an elite in it, so enjoy the little nice reprieve for about 5 seconds. Because, hey, elite trackers don't need to be in their second form to continuously teleport to you. So that's some great stuff. And then, since they're following you, when they go into their second form, you're just going to be constantly shot up in the air because you're probably going to be hitting a lot of them at once. Prepare to do some pretty hefty flying in this area is what I'm saying. Yeesh. And also, elite bats and elite kamikaze bats, pretty annoying. Yeah, since you can't really upgrade the legendary weapons, you know, as nice as it is to have the... As nice as it is to have a legendary weapon and, you know, not have to worry about getting the correct stat up with it and being colorless, you can't upgrade it so it gives you stats or whatever, so it's kind of an issue in that way. Yeah, I do think Explosive Lure especially is the way to go. Because it is much, compared to the necklace, it is much better. It's much better balanced. Also, would definitely recommend if you were going to go for a mostly turret build here, try to respect to get shots pierce all enemies. I tried at one point to get the newest, one of the newer mutations that allows you to get an invincibility bubble, but it literally lasts for like a half a second, so it's not super useful. So many elites just die to fall damage alone. Not enough of them though, and you did get that. You did get that phase there doing a cute little dance right as I died, which I like. Oh yeah, another short one where I just show Frost Archers are pretty hardcore and obnoxious, and I hate them. Presumably if they were in the actual game, they would be a little bit more, I don't know, well-behaved and less cheap. Other things. Obviously, using a turret can be rough. I mean, it's not the most ideal way to do damage to a mass amount of enemies. So I do think that you can maybe get more out of taking a bunch of grenades with you instead. For example, if you manage to get like a double cluster grenade, as well as something that syncs up with it, maybe like a firebrand's a plus 100% on blah, or maybe it's just a 2x damage. You do have a lot of damage reduction after all. You can take out a huge mass of enemies, but that doesn't mean that you'll be able to take out stuff like the elite kamikaze bats easily, because they have a lot of health, as you think. Seriously close to getting just shoved directly into that spike pit right there. I guess Tough Skin could be useful here as a mutation, but I don't know how useful. Yeah, here I tried to get some good fire sinkage on the with using firebrands here, and then I realized, oh wait a second, I'm getting 2x damage, but I can't really pick up anything different right now. Because 2x damage on a firebrand, like, come on, wouldn't even get out of bed for that. If I had time to look at it. Oh, aside from that, mutations, I think that getting an emergency triage would be extremely useful as kind of a panic button. Heart, I guess, but you know, if you lose a heart in this mode, it kind of feels like you're probably not going to stay alive much longer anyway, due to the nature of it. Also, elite phasers attack so quickly, it is just impossible, at least it was impossible for me, to be able to, like, dodge them effectively. There's that incredible getting launched up in the air that I was talking about. And really, the loss of control is the most annoying thing out of all of them. Yeah, that was a pause. That was an overly long pause that I edited out there. Oh, also, I didn't mention this, but the in-between areas, in-between biome loading screens are outrageously long because of the amount of enemies I guess they have to load in, or particle effects, or whatever. So, I also edited those out, because that would be terrible. See, I care about you viewers. I'm not going to make you watch me sit at a screen for like 45 seconds while I'm waiting for the level to load. Oh, I hate those phasers. The worst. They're not even close to the worst. It's the bats. Any flying enemy. And also kind of the defenders, because And I've escaped orbit. Ah, great stuff. But yes, any flying enemies are just pretty much impossible to deal with. Also, look at that frame rate tank. Oh no, that wasn't a problem with recording or anything. The game was actually running like this the entire time because of the amount of enemies doing stuff here. I think that, you know, getting the efficiency and I think it's Artificer, the one that allows you to use bombs quicker. I tried. The one that allows you to use bombs quicker would also be two pretty good grabs insofar as mutations go, because I think you're probably going to want to be using skills for the most part. Although a fast, I don't even know what they're getting attacked by. I think it's just them falling off of edges because of how tightly packed they are. Yeah, anything that reduces cooldown reduction is good, but, you know, having a decently fast melee weapon can also be almost as effective if you can kind of corral enemies into a corner to attack them. Especially if you got something like a impaler on top of that, because ugh. Anyway, this one was the one that I decided instead to go to the sewers in. But I also kind of started out this run having the invisibility necklace, so you got to see how that's worked a little bit. As well as a bit of how exactly the Death Orb functions, which even at 5 times speed is, you can see, doesn't go fast, but that's not the point of the Death Orb. I mean, it's never been. Even back when it was appearing in, like, Castlevania or whatever. Now I have to sell a bunch of items. Just to be able to get the one that I wanted, which was the heavy turret there. Why the heavy turret? Because the heavy turret can get a decent amount of stun on enemies, and that stun can be pretty invaluable when it comes to, you know, not getting killed by everything, or not getting stun locked by everything, if nothing else. Oh boy. And you do also want to be able to do a little bit of selling stuff just to make sure that you can reroll affixes to your heart's content as when you get to the next area. But yeah, here's what I wanted to do is I wanted to put into motion the strategy that I had that was getting the necklace affix that is poison heals you, as well as utilizing a lot of the and here it is. Again, 5 times speed. And then I got 2 Death Orb here and 2 utility bows. Something to do a little bit of freezing, something to do a little bit of extra damage. I think I probably would have been better just utilizing, I don't know, a decent melee weapon or a decent spell or something. Damage, I think, is better than utility at this point. Yeah, there is no way that I would manage to get through to that. Unless I did just take some of the just double explosive lure, which, again, the more I think about it, the more I want to say that that really is the way to go in this mode. Or just cheap it out with an invisibility necklace. Again, I just don't want to do that because I want to at least, you know, there's that whole can you see where you're going. I want to at least give, you know, this mod the respect that it probably doesn't deserve, but I'm giving it anyway. Tiny alcove. See, and that's where having a decent, like a balance blade or something would have been pretty good. Spiteful sword, especially. Just sit back, relax, enjoy your time in these horrible, horrible, fetid sewers. It's like being in a spa. It's not at all like being in a spa. But you know what? It heals you, so I say good. So yeah, I gotta say, I'm a little glad that Motion Twin went with the infection mechanic rather than going into this hellish landscape. I mean, it's fun for a novelty. I gotta tell you, I don't know. This is why I'm not too worried about doing like a legitimate run with this, because I really did give it an attempt though. That was like a good 2 days where all I was doing was playing this game trying to get this working, but 'Twas not to be. It was not meant to be. Oh well. I do actually have... I remember this run... Well, at least the run that preceded this one, where I tried to get into the sewers. I did manage to do it, but then immediately what happened was that I got hit by a scorpion, and the scorpion's poison pretty much immediately killed me, because I believe that goes through your... Either it just does a lot of damage, or it goes through your damage reduction, which is why you almost either need poison doesn't affect you, or poison heals you. And there's a pretty obvious, you know, better option out of those two. At least if you want to go to the sewers. And there's where I just cut, so you didn't have to spend 5 minutes of me just sitting in... I was going to say lava, not quite. Green lava. So, yeah. There is also something to be said about going slowly in this mode. If you manage to have a good build that can kill enemies pretty quickly and then just hit and run and hit and run and made it incredibly slow, if you have a lot of patience, I think that this could also be very possible. But I don't. Death Orb working super well there. Really, I do think that I probably I probably would have been better off using the heavy turret instead for that stun potential, because it's, especially against kamikaze bats, if I got a pierces all enemies, it could have probably knocked those things out, you know, giving me enough time to either kill them or get away from them. Well, you know, hindsight 2020. Yeah, and I do think this is kind of the epitome of the slowest that I go in the various runs that I at least made an attempt with. Like I said, I don't know if this is over entirely, if this is going to be the last thing I see of Alaahs' incredible, just absolutely amazing 5-cell Helltown USA here, but I can easily just go roll back the file and get right back into this, but I don't know. It's not like there's a bunch of new content waiting for you if you get through these first couple areas. It's pretty much, I think that as soon as you get through these first couple areas, it's pretty much totally fine. Obvious cut there again. It's pretty much totally fine to get through the rest. I've talked about this before, where there's an obvious power curve in this game. You start out, you know, with whatever you can scrounge up, pretty much fighting your way through to just try and get any more decent weapons. I mean, there's a good reason where, yeah, if you didn't see that secret area, don't worry, it forced me in there anyway. But yes, the first area, for example, I usually don't fight all the enemies in, even if I am going for cell grinding or whatever, because you tend to not have a very good setup to be able to do that. But then as soon as you get into the late game, you've kind of finalized your build, you've gotten a lot of stats under you, the power curve has gone up exponentially, as it were, which is, you know, why it's called power curve. And suddenly you're able to just take out everything with ease until you get to the castle, because that is designed to be very tough at just about any build, good or bad. So, you know, I do think that probably applies to this as well. You get deep enough into 5 cells and suddenly you have all of the items that you need to make everything super trivial to go through. It's a good thing that I have a lot of damage reduction, even though that does not stop me from taking a lot of damage anyway. Ugh. I still don't really know what the ideal build would be for this. I'm thinking probably Assault Shield, Hunter's Longbow, and, you know, whatever sort of powerful turret you want, or whatever sort of powerful turret you want for going for a boss, or a powerful, you know, two explosive lures for the ability to just, you know, basically have free reign of the place if you're just trying to get through it. Certainly as soon as you get... It wouldn't be difficult to... With this amount of damage reduction, I think that you could easily do a full tactics build and not necessarily worry about dying, you know, if an enemy looks at you. Which, by the way, if an enemy looks at you, they also will launch you 20 feet into the air and to the right, so, you know, it's... There's more than just damage at stake here. Another good thing is that Death Orb does give you rally, so that if you do happen to take damage, you can generally at least kind of get it back up. Mostly get it back up. At the very least, I think if there was one time that you wanted to take the mutation that gives you 2 times rally, or in this most recent patch, 3 times the amount of times to get back your rally, or maybe that was a speed buff. I gotta go look at those patch notes again. It's like, this would be the time for it. Oh, and if you saw the blood shield there and you were thinking, it's like, well, why don't you just sit in the corner, hold out something like a blood shield or a punishment, and let enemies take care of themselves? And it doesn't do that much damage. Sorry. Can't say I'm not disappointed myself. Yeah, here's where I decide to grab the Crusher because, again, does a lot of damage, scales with survival, so you can easily get a lot of health out of that anyway. And additionally, it is invincible, so it can't be destroyed by enemies as they're just, you know, attacking everything indiscriminately, as you kind of expect them to, being this hugely packed into a single area. Exploiting the coffin a little bit more for mild amount of invincibility. I do think that if you were trying to do this in a more, I don't know, serious way, that you would probably try to go find one of the areas that teleports you back, because one of like the teleport back pagoda type things, you know, that you see at like the bottom of pits in the promenade, for example, because when that teleports you back to the surface, that also gives you a brief invincibility bubble. And really, I think there's also something to be said about just baiting enemies into areas, and then you could easily utilize the teleporters to warp far enough away from them that they won't teleport to you. Move faster already. That pokey or whatever. I never got why that was funny. I mean, I like Proton John and everything, but like, man, that line still baffles me. If you can't get a Hunter's Longbow, Explosive Crossbow is pretty good too, because, you know, critical does good damage, but additionally, you also get that huge splash damage, which can be super, super good. Not looking too good for me here, especially because I kept trying to get the teleporter there, but then warping away, but then getting forced away by having elites explode and do their pushback move. So yes, all that time that I spent, you know, just sitting in pools of, I was gonna say lava again, and getting healed were all for naught. I'm getting a surprising amount of rally in this little tiny area. Yeah, if there's any time you want to play the rally game, I would say this would probably be it. Also, this would also work equally as well if I had, say, counter shield and was just parrying over and over, because all the projectiles would be doing a ton of damage on each one of these enemies. I mean, you might think that, yeah, it's a little dangerous to be next to one of the golden doors there, and you'd be right, because my biters are now attacking it. And I can't open up the door with the money I have because I keep trying to pick up items instead. Oh, well, at least you get to see all the items do their little shimmy shake. That's cute. Well, I think it's cute. Oh, so... got cursed. In Alaahs style 5-cell mode. Oh, which, by the way, I don't think I ever mentioned, but is called in the loading screens and when you select it in the menu, it's called Disgusting Worm difficulty. So, you know, 2 thumbs up on that naming convention. So, yeah, you got cursed here. what you do? Well, best thing I thought was pick up a good ranged weapon and try to just outrange 10 enemies. Is this the best idea? Nope. Is this kind of the only option? Yep. There's one of 10. Oh, well, I mean, if they all go that well, this will be super easy. Oh, it went terribly. It went terribly almost immediately. Oh, back to the promenade. And the second that I activated that huge group of Inquisitors, I got pushed all the way back, like they literally exploded. Yeah, here's where you can see how well parrying works. If you just... And the thing is, they attack so quickly that you can just keep mashing the parry button and get off parry every single time. It's a bit ridiculous. Woof. Additionally, having a tornado here is actually pretty good because if you get in a little tiny small quarter... If you get in small quarters, what you can do is you can just have that be constantly doing damage, clearing out all your projectiles, and whee! And, you know, doing damage as well, without you needing to do much of anything. You can see how the bombardiers there were just totally shut down by having that happen. It's not really the most damage or anything, but it is... like the passive damage, because you're going to be sitting there getting chain stunned anyway, is worth it alone, I guess. Aura of Laceration just does not have the chops to... I mean, it does constant damage, it lets you do rallying, it does all that sort of stuff. But one of the big things is that... yeah, just send me out of the level at this rate, why not? But one of the big things is that Aura of Laceration just doesn't have... the damage is bad. It's bad damage. You get good rally, but you get bad damage, and I can't not have good damage here. It's like, that is out of the question. Also, it's surprisingly difficult to even just use your skills sometimes because you get your control taken away from you due to how this works so often. Trackers just deciding that they had enough of me killing them in-game and now just tried to kill my computer. They didn't succeed, though. Don't worry about it. Right into the spikes. Well, I mean, I wouldn't have been right into the spikes if I didn't, you know, get forced every which way but loose by every single elite popping off in, you know, the tri-state area. But, hey, it's part of the charm as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it was pretty much just a huge control loss there. Not much I could do. Oh, yes, I remember this one now. You know, I will say this about, like, these sort of mods. It's, this is definitely supposed to be a challenge mod. It is not supposed to be any sort of legitimate or, like, even possible way. It's a you know, what would you call it? If you were being cynical, you'd say it's like streamer bait or whatever. Yeah, this is how you can see the Impaler is super good at taking out enemies. Maybe not ideal, because obviously I'm having a pretty hard time with the bats. But I got all those trackers down pretty well. And you could call this like streamer bait, because it is crazy and ludicrous and not really... And I mean, it's certainly better balanced than a lot of things I've seen, insofar as, like, you know, stupid hacks or mods or whatever. But it is also, like, this is not really something that I would say somebody would want to play casually. But you know what? I missed out on getting over it, so this is my own version of dealing with frustration and starting over. Because, I mean, hey, that's this whole genre, whether it's, you know, proper roguelikes or... Come on, man, I just beat, like, 20,000 dudes. Can you not? Oh, you did. Honestly, they never really got too frustrated with this because, hey, you know, this isn't really the game proper. Motion Twin didn't come out and say, oh yeah, man, this is how the game is going to be from now on. Nah, it's just a thing for fun. And to be fair, I did have a lot of fun with it. I wouldn't have played it for like half a dozen hours if I didn't. Just disappointed that I never really got to anywhere past the first levels. But again, it's like everything would probably just become much easier at that point. I don't know. Anyway, there you can see the explosive crossbow being pretty good, but it's pretty good when you're not fighting a ton of enemies. Elite Defender. Oh, that is goofy. It's very good when you're not fighting a lot of enemies because the momentary pause you get just opens you up, pretty hardcore to getting chain stunned. So it's like it's good, but not good enough. I don't know. I mean, I imagine that bosses in this mode are just a total non-issue nothing, because why would that matter at all? You already have like level 20 plus weapons. And really, it's like if you're playing this, you're used to fighting bosses as they are. So the ability to pretty much reroll every single affix on everything, however you want it to be, as well as reroll every single shot to their maximum, it's generally doesn't make it too difficult to get a build. But you do need to actually be able to, say, get down to the shops in the first place, which is not always the most possible thing when stuff like that keeps happening. Yeah, there's what I was talking about with cluster bombs being not at all a bad pickup here. Really hard to tell what's going on. And oh yeah, I took emergency triage on this one. And the invincibility shield, well, the ability to heal quick is good because, you know, control is taken away from you a lot. And the ability to get a shield on yourself pretty much means go buck wild and hit 'em up style when you happen to use a potion. Unfortunately, due to the limited amount of potions you get, maybe not the best idea. Grab that for the maximum amount of brutality possible. Was that a good idea? Nope. I don't even know how they all died. And probably the highest I got in the level thus far. It's great that I'm literally one hit away from dying as soon as I hit back to Earth then. What are you gonna do? So this is the final one. And here I did take an invisibility necklace just to kind of because I was getting desperate. I mean, this wasn't the final run that I did or anything, but this was the final run that got anywhere. Yes, roll through there. You'll lay down a bomb and then get murdered. No, if I was going to get murdered, I'm going out in my own way. Which is to say, both of these knife storms pierce through all enemies. So if you have a huge mass of enemies, they should all get hit. I don't know if they do, because it's just hard to get near these guys a lot, and nah, it's really kamikaze bats that are more of an issue here than anything else. And although it's really just if I can spray them with the knife storm, they go down quickly. But that's easier said than done with everything happening here. It's just I mean, you know, that's this mod in a nutshell. It's just a glorious, glorious mess. Like, all the loot, all the enemies, everything just totally chaotic. It's pretty much for, you know, a kind of goofy, off-the-cuff mod. It's exactly what I want out of it. Hey, baguette. Oh. Yeah, that 7 survival was tempting, because that means that any colorless weapon could suddenly get a whole lot of stats stacked into a single thing, but that would probably lower my overall health, because you do have to diversify it to some extent to be able to get the maximum amount of health possible. You'd think that something like, well, not so much poison enemies that hurt you, but inflicts, you know, damage is reflected back at enemies that hit you. Not as useful as you would think. I think it's because enemies with projectiles don't have that happen to them or something, or maybe you just don't take a whole lot of damage as it is. I don't know, hard to say. And I somehow did not hit any one of those bats. Yeah, I feel like there might be some sort of sprite limit issue or something related to using Knife Storm, because, or maybe it's just the sheer amount of enemies in here. Oh, and the grand finale, I went underground. Big mistake. 5 cell mode. Thanks, Allah. Did a great job.